Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son sit down and talk about fantasy and sci fi literature that we really enjoy. Today is another one of our Just Jim episodes. You see no Zachary on the screen. He's off living the high life, having a great time, and doing other things in the very busy life of a young 20-year-old. But we're committed to keeping content coming to you, and I have stuff I can talk about that he hasn't read. Yes, it's true. He still has not read the Dresden Files. Come on, guys, keep giving him a hard time. Get him going onto these excellent books. He is willing to. This is not an issue of he won't read them. He just hasn't gotten around to it. He's bought the first few. They're just sitting there waiting to get to it. And it's not like he's not doing anything of quality when it comes to literature. He's still working through the Wheel of Time with me, and you continue to see episodes periodically as we work through the Shadow Rising. But he's also reading N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy, and that's some deep stuff. So he's in the first book, the 5th season. He's been on it for a while, but he's getting there. And if you've read that, you know how good that is. So we'll give him some time. He's got 2 more books he's going to have to finish there before he can move into Dresden Files. But we're going to fully continue to enjoy this because I've read all 17 of the books that are out there so far. And if you're watching this, you've at least read the first 4 because we're talking about Summer Night today. And this is full spoiler. I'm going to be reviewing the book, digging into the book, really more just fan loving on the book. And I'll reference a lot of the 3 books before it, but nothing beyond. I mean, I might hint at a couple of things. Okay, I will hint at a couple of things, but only that will help you realize some things that happened in this book that are perhaps more important than you might know otherwise. I'm not going to blow anything for you, though. I want you to experience the fun for yourself. Before I jump into that, a few things, details, housekeeping. One, we always talk about what we are drinking when we record. Well, today, nothing, because it's 10 in the morning for me on the Pacific time zone. Now, I am doing something a little different. If you're a regular with us, you know this background is not what you usually see. My wife and I decided to get out of town for the weekend and go out to the coast. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to pick up my camera. I'm going to turn it around. And you can see what I see out my window as I record. That's also the light for the episode. It's just gorgeous out here, the Oregon coast. And this time of year, we can get a lot of clouds and rain. But today, it's just a beautiful, gorgeous day. So I can't drink yet because we're going to go outside. We're going to enjoy the day, and the drinking will come later. Oh, it will come. We'll get there, but not yet. So, what else do I need to point out? Well, if you enjoy this content, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss more of what we're doing here, more Dresden Files, more Wheel of Time, more other things to come in our recordings. Love to have you with us for all our content. You can subscribe on YouTube if you're watching this, and be sure to like it as well. And if you're in the audio format, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcast or whatever, you can subscribe there too, and we hope you will. Also encourage you to come interact with us. We're all over social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, but we're in Discord, and that's where we have some people with us today for this live recording. All of our Patreons can join us for any of our live recordings. Once in a while, we open up a recording to anybody. And this is one of those because I'd be lonely otherwise. No Zachary. So I'm glad to have a few people with us here today. Thanks, guys. And let's have some fun as we work our way through Summer Night. So, about this book. Jim Butcher has some great fun with the book titles, with double, sometimes triple meanings, and Summer Night is no exception. And again, we're talking Summer Knight. Okay. It's just another thing to enjoy and appreciate about the books. He puts thought into these titles, And I'm not going to go into it right now, but I hope you caught it. All the different ways Summer Night is relevant. And it makes you think back to Grave Peril, Full Moon, Storm Front, the meanings in those titles. And they're just going to keep getting better, actually. Until maybe you get to the last one, Battleground. That one's just kind of obvious. We will talk more about that for now. Summer Night opens up also some complexity in the Dresden universe in a bunch of new ways. It definitely moves deeper into the overarching storyline, where the first three books were rather episodic, um, introducing key elements, but really telling a story all of its own. Book four is the first one that really plays off directly from book three. Okay, the events that happen in book three is what launches everything that's happening in book four. And yet four is its own story. There's definitely an episodic part there. But everything that happens here in Summer Night, again, was launched in book three and isn't finished. It's clearly leaving a bunch of stuff that's going to continue to happen. So this will build throughout the series now. And this is why many people say this is where the book really, the Dresden Files really takes off. I like to think it's book three that does, because it's set up book four. But this one is a lot more to it, a lot more action. It's really a ride. And expect a lot more of that as you read through the Dresden Files. Another thing that this book does that actually is kind of common for many of his Dresden File books is it drops you right into action. You know, you don't have a lot of slow build in Summer Night. It's just, oh, hi, here's Harry. And oh, hey, Billy the werewolf comes on up to meet him. Remember Billy? We met him in book two, Full Moon. Oh, him and his alphas. But momentarily, we're going to have an assassination attempt on Harry Dresden. So let's just get into it. That's kind of how these books go. There's something big. Sometimes we'll open a book up and literally you're in the middle of the action. This one, we at least get a little bit of intro because Jim Butcher uses a conversation between Harry and Billy, who approaches him, to catch us up on what's happened over the last 9 months. That's how long it's been since Susan Rodriguez, his girlfriend, was bitten and half turned into a vampire. It's also when the events happened with the Red Court vampires that have triggered a war between the White Council and the Red Court vampires. So we get to pick up here that, first of all, Harry's a mess. The impact of what happened, mostly to Susan, but also to the wizarding world, the vampire world, all of that, has really weighed Harry down. But he has spent most of his time over the last 9 months tirelessly trying to find a solution for Susan. Now, Susan's gone. He's not even quite sure where she is. He gets a postcard once in a while. But he's vigilant, trying to find some way to turn her completely back human, to be able to put this vampire nonsense behind him. So he hasn't been taking care of himself. He hasn't been taking jobs. He has been neglecting his friends, work, bills, hygiene. Billy brings all this up, and Harry's like dismissive of it all because it doesn't matter. Susan, I must help Susan. Well, it's not good for Harry. Basically, he has spiraled down into depression because he can't make progress to help her, and he's nearly at wit's end here. He's also nearly at money's end, which is part of where Billy is coming up saying, dude, you got to get a job. We'll talk more about that in a moment. We also get in this opening introduction the clear revelation that the war between the vampires, the Red Court vampires, and the White Council, it's ongoing. It's real. It's escalating. There are some serious issues here. We also know that with those issues, there's a lot of people not happy with Harry. Of course, vampires. But a lot of the wizards aren't happy with Harry. Many people blame him. They don't care what his reasons were for killing Madame Bianca and setting this whole mess up. They don't want to hear it might have been the vampire's fault. All they know is there's a problem now, wizards are in danger, and Harry did it. Poor Harry. Then let's add in the fact that there's also been some weird things happening lately. Just weirdness in general. This doesn't have to do specifically with the vampires or wizards. This is just due to something confusing that no one really understands. And it's demonstrated in the opening scene by raining toads. That's right, toads falling right out of the sky. It's kind of sounds like a plague from the Bible, but that's not quite how it happened there. So we've got toads everywhere. What's going on? Strange stuff. And as Billy and Harry are discussing the toads, this is when the hit goes down. And suddenly there's a couple people there trying to kill Harry. But wait, Harry's trying to deal with them. Billy's yelling, Harry, Harry, watch out for that. And he's oblivious to it. And then a little almost too late, he realizes, oh, wait, there's three people after him. Because this innocuous old lady sitting there, kind of a bag lady, she's actually another person here to assassinate him. And Harry would be dead, but Billy jumps in, switching to werewolf form, and tries to take out the lady. And that's where we learn, oh, she's not a lady, and we get an introduction to another one of the supernatural characters, a ghoul. Ugh. Ghouls are not cool. Ghouls are, ugh. Ghouls are very strong, they're nasty, and we'll come back to more of ghouls. This is your first introduction. You're going to get plenty more ghouls in the Dresden Files. But thankfully, they do manage to get past this scenario. Billy is extremely helpful to that. And off they go in the Blue Beetle, if you remember. Harry's Volkswagen bug that is not very blue. Billy, I want to mention about this. You know, he's got his alphas, this pack of werewolves that we met in Full Moon, and they have gone on to be superheroes. They now patrol their neighborhood around the university where they are, and they're making the place safer. It's nice to meet some supernatural creatures who honestly just want to use their power for good. We haven't met many of those yet, but that seems to be Billy and his people. And Billy is doing this with Harry as well, using power for good. In this case, the power of friendship. He's talking to Harry because he cares. He's trying to draw him out of his depression shell, but he's also set up a job for him. Now, Harry's ticked at this, but honestly, Harry needs the money. So there was a lady who wanted to make an appointment, Ms. Somerset. Billy set it up. Harry now has barely enough time to get to that appointment at his office, which he's about to lose through eviction because he hasn't made any money. So, all right, fine, I'll carry through with this. And we're going to get a great scene because Ms. Somerset, she's not what she looks like. She is a rich, beautiful woman who actually has a veil over her that Harry is able to detect and see through. And turns out, this is one of the Fae, a fairy. Okay, but not just that. She's one of the queens of fairy, Queen Mab, the monarch of the winter court of the Sidhe. And she's got a job for Harry. Okay, this introduces something next level. We've heard of the Lianen Sidhe in the past. We've learned about the Never Never, where the Sidhe live. But this book's opening up the land of the Fae way bigger. So let me break down just up front here some of the things we want to understand and comprehend from this book. You don't get this all up front. I'm just kind of putting it together for us here. Let's go through this. So first, And again, we're going to learn more about the Fae moving forward. I'm limiting this to just what we'll learn in Summer Night. The particular type of Fae that we are talking about here are the She, and those who work for them. The She come in two varieties, the Winter Court and the Summer Court. And each one has a queen. We've just met Mab, the Winter Queen. We'll later meet the Summer Court's queen, Titania. We learn that both of the courts also have a mother, basically the retired queen who chose a successor to take her place. We don't know all the mechanics there, but it's a setup. So the retiree lives off in a retirement home. Okay, we'll learn more about that later. It's fun to discover that both the retired queens share a shack and just kind of pass the time together in retirement. But they do still have a role to play, they do still have some power. We also learn that both the courts have a future queen, a lady in waiting. And literally, they use the term lady. So there's the winter lady and the summer lady. We'll meet both of these in good order, too. The summer lady is named Aurora, and she seems to be the good guy. Honestly, in general, the summer court is portrayed as the ones who are the good ones, the ones we'd like to spend time with and hang out with. Um, because they represent the warmth, the growing things, the healthy things. Who wouldn't want to hang out more with summer, right? And then the winter lady is Maeve. And she's a real piece of work. We'll talk more about Maeve coming up, but she represents the darker side of things, the colder, icier side. So, Maeve. I'm seeing in Discord that, yes, there is some difference in pronunciation here. I've always said Maeve. Some might say Mav, but I got Queen Mab. So I don't like Mav right there. I go with Maeve. It makes more sense. I've not listened to the audiobook, so if you have and you've heard it different there, let me know. Doesn't mean that James Marsters is right. And we can go with our headcanon anyways. All right, so we've got 3 queens of winter and 3 queens of summer. Basically past, present, and future. That's what we've learned about them. But a couple other key players here. Or key aspects. We learn that the She cannot directly lie. Now, I love this because in a way, they're just like the Aes Sedai from the Wheel of Time. Uh, it doesn't mean they can't tell lies. They just can't directly tell lies. They can tell lies of omission, making sure they don't mention things you ought to know so that you jump to the wrong conclusions. They also can be very particular in the words they say. So the truth that you think you hear is not really the truth, but they didn't say anything technically that wasn't true. So they're very good at that. There's a definite parallel to Wheel of Time Aes Sedai. You have to be very careful when you talk with the Fae, with the She in particular. And this plays into also that when they make a deal with you, they make a bargain and they commit to it, again, they can't tell a direct untruth. So if they commit to a deal, they have to hold to that deal. That deal is ironclad. Of course, they will expect the same of you. So you must be very careful if you enter into a bargain with the She. There's one other person that's an element in the winter court to talk about. We've got these queens, 6 of them, 3 on each side, and they are fairy creatures. But there's another that is actually human who has power of the court, and that's the knight. So there's a winter knight who works for winter, and there's a summer knight who works for summer, thus our title, Summer Knight. We will meet the winter knight, Lloyd Slate, and he is not a nice guy. He channels the darker sides of winter, for sure. We will not meet the summer knight, at least not the summer knight that this book is kind of named after, because the reason Mab is here talking to Harry is she wants to hire him to find out who killed the summer knight. Ronald Rule. He's been murdered, and not only that, his power as the Summer Knight, something they call the mantle, so the Summer Mantle, has been stolen. That shouldn't be able to happen. When the Summer Knight died, the mantle should have gone somewhere, but just poof, it's gone. So this is a mystery. And who would benefit if the muscle of the Summer Court, the Summer Knight, is killed? Well, naturally, Winter. And who's in charge of the Winter Court right now? Well, that's Queen Mab. So she looks like the primary suspect. But she's here to say, I didn't do it. And again, the she can't lie. So she tells Harry, I need you to find who did this. It's not me. Okay, then it can't be her. Now, it could be her. Because, she can say, I didn't do it, which is not the same as I had someone else do it. But Harry's going, okay, so you don't want to be blamed for the murder. You want me to go use my detective skills and find out who really did it. Let me think for a moment. Heck no. Harry does not want anything to do with this sort of stuff. Again, he needs the money, and she can pay. But this is supernatural, fairy, creepy stuff. He wants no. And it's completely a detraction from what he'd really rather work on. Again, finding a way to help Susan Rodriguez. However, it's not so easy to just say no. Because Queen Mab is here specifically wanting him to be her emissary, the emissary of Winter, working as her agent to solve this issue. And she has a ace in the hole to play. Harry owes her. Oh, he's like, I don't owe you anything. She's like, yes, you do. Because remember that debt you owed to the Liananshi, your literal fairy godmother? Yeah, I bought it. You don't owe Leah anything anymore. Now you owe me. And I'm going to make you a deal. Again, a deal. She commits to a deal. She has to hold it. Okay. So here's the deal. I will let you pay off your debt in an easy way. You have to do me 3 favors. And once you've fulfilled all 3 favors I ask, you're off the hook. No more commitments to the she, no more hold over you. You're free as a jaybird. Harry, instantly part of him is like, cool. But wait a second. Okay, I know how this works. This sounds too good to be true. Discord says, sounds simple. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. There must be a catch. So he probes with this a little. He's like, okay, so you're saying 3 favors and then I'm off the hook. So basically he negotiates with her very carefully, deliberately using the words. And here's what we boil it down to. He has veto power. So he doesn't get ordered to do 3 things. She will ask him to do something. That's a favor. He can do it or he can decline to do it. There is no compulsion that he accept any favor she requests. So go kill that person. I don't want to kill that person. Okay. There are no repercussions to Harry if he declines. It simply means he remains on the hook. His debt is still there until he fulfills 3 favors. So the longer he declines, the longer the debt still hangs over him. And the last thing he puts into the bargain is his debt can't be sold again. No pulling a fast one. Okay, first I owed Leanne and she, now I owe you. I have 1 favor left and you sell it to someone else. No, you keep it until this is fulfilled. And she agrees. So with that all in place, Harry says, all right, we have a bargain. And he feels a magical sense come over him where that had a locking force in place now. So there's a new commitment, and we have a future for Harry where he can get out of this debt to the fairyland. So the first favor she officially asks is, I want you, as I said before, to serve as my emissary to dig into this case of what happened to the Summer Knight and vindicate me. And Harry declines. Nope, don't want it. Mab says, well, you might not want to be so hasty on that one. Yeah, it turns out he is going to accept this job, but not just because she wants him to. There are reasons. So let's talk about what happens next. What are these reasons? Well, first off, the White Council. We've heard of them before. That's the governing body of the world of wizards. The White Council is in town, in Chicago, to meet. They're here to discuss the situation of the war with the Red Court. Oh, and partly to talk about Harry. Again, a lot of wizards not happy with Harry Dresden. They don't care what might have happened here between him and the Red Court, and details do not matter. They just know they're all in danger now from Red Court vampires who want to kill them, and it's Harry's fault. So, one of the things that's going to be considered is to cut Harry loose. He is no longer worthy of being a wizard because he has screwed up so badly. Let the vampires have him. And then we can go back to normal. I mean, they don't care about Harry. So they're going to have this meeting. And Harry, he better show up. Harry's been a mess lately. So he does show up at the meeting, but he doesn't really take the time to get all cleaned up. And he doesn't have. Okay, there's a requirement. You must be robed for a White Council meeting. It's like a dress code. He has no clean robe that really would be appropriate, but he's got to have a robe. So the dude shows up in a friggin' terry cloth bathrobe. Yeah, that's going to help his case. Okay. People are already irritated at Harry, want to cut him loose, and he's going to disrespect them by showing up in a bathrobe. And from his perspective, hey, I wore a robe. Gotta have a robe. Not good. Before he goes into the White Council grand meeting in a conference center, basically, he meets up with Ebenezer McCoy out in a parking lot outside. Ebenezer is one of the other wizards on the White Council, but they go back, and we learn Ebenezer, who affectionately calls Harry Hoss, uh, he raised him for part of his upbringing. And remember when he was under the doom of Damocles for, being accused of using black magic and killing somebody, an executable offense? Well, Ebenezer had stepped in and been part of why Harry wasn't killed. Ebenezer took Harry in kind of as his ward, worked with him, trained him, helped him to get on the straight and narrow. So there's a real bond between the two of them. In essence, Harry apprenticed under Ebenezer. So it's nice to see him, but Ebenezer is also like, dude, you are in some trouble. And we'll see what we can do to help you, but it's not looking good. A few other key wizards show up, and I'm gonna talk to you about these various different wizards here that they'll meet, but I'll save that for a moment. I just want to clarify a couple of things that we're going to hear about. One is that Harry's trouble level has gone up a bit because one of the key wizards. Okay, I got to explain that. You got the White Council, but then you have a senior council, the top wizards who kind of run stuff, make the primary decisions, represent the body. Well, one of those who is a friend of Ebenezer's, is likely to support Harry's case, just got taken out by Red Court vampires. Somehow, his impregnable fortress in Russia was overwhelmed. That's not good. That speaks to the Red Court knowing things they shouldn't be able to know, having more power and more decisiveness than really should be possible. So this is bad. This is going to have everybody in the White Council unsettled and more willing to do something about Harry, because if Simon could be taken out, anybody could be taken out. Is kind of the message. But also, again, that's someone who was on the senior council who would have probably sided with Harry against the vampires. So this isn't going to be good. Then we're going to get into the meeting itself. And again, Harry's in a bathrobe. He also has a negative against him in that the official meeting language is not English, it's Latin. And Harry's Latin sucks. He's going to try to communicate and represent himself, but he speaks Latin so badly, it's hilarious. And just continues to reinforce that he's a fool of a wizard, probably isn't worthy of the name, and maybe they should just cut him off, cut ties, and move on. Well, what ends up happening is Harry actually gets ordered by the White Council to serve as Winter's emissary, just like Queen Mab wanted. The reason is that a message comes from the Fae, because in the midst of fighting this battle with the Red Court, the wizards want to use the Never Never to get quickly around places around the world. Remember, the wizards have an issue with technology, so it's not like they can just hop on a plane and go somewhere. Plane's likely to crash. So instead, they use the Never Never, but the Never Never can be a dangerous place. However, the Fae have the ability to create smooth paths for them, safe routes through the Never Never to allow the wizards to use. So they're considering the request, but they have a price for it, and it is Queen Mab who says, I want Harry to be my emissary and do a job for me. So that's going to lead to Harry having to do it. Now, what actually plays out to get there is key, and this is where I'll introduce the other senior council members. Because again, we've got Ebenezer. We know him. He's not senior council at the beginning of this, but he's about to be. The other senior council members, though, are clearly divided about their thoughts on Harry. And some of this goes back to, when he was with his original mentor, Justin de Mornay, who Harry ended up killing. Some of them still don't trust him for that. One senior council member is the one who leads the whole thing, and that's Arthur Langtree. Now, he has the official title, the Merlin. And yes, that is a reference to the original Merlin from Arthurian legend, who was the one who set up the White Council in the first place, created a body to govern wizards, and ever since, the leader of that body has held the title, the Merlin. Now, this Merlin, he's truly a politician. He wants to see this whole meeting result in Harry being cut loose. Quickest, easiest way to put this war to rest. Nothing personal. He just wants to get past the danger right now that all wizards face. And he believes that is the smoothest path to do it. In a way, he's going with Spock from Star Trek. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. So, yeah, Harry, sucks to be you, but you're out, man. Of course, the Merlin did not quote Spock. That's just me. If anything was quoted in this book, it would be Star Wars, not Star Trek. Am I right? Okay. Hang on to that. So the Merlin is saying, okay, we have an opening on the senior council, and because of Simon's death, and so I have someone to put forward to replace him, and he's ready to appoint one of his yes men onto the senior council, which will pretty much seal the deal that Harry is screwed. And this is where Ebenezer steps up and says, hold your horses. I'd like to have that position. And here we learn just a little bit about governance in the White Council. Seniority matters. Ebenezer is one of the most senior members of the White Council. So his claim to that seat trumps the person that was put forward by the Merlin. A quick vote ensues. Ebenezer gets the spot. So now we've got the White Council all ready to deal with this situation of Harry. And Ebenezer makes a political move here. He's a sharp guy. He says, rather than having a vote of the whole White Council on what to do with Harry, where, the scared lemmings will follow the safe route, he says, I think this is a vote for the senior council alone. He's allowed to make that move. So he does. Now the senior council is going to vote. Who do we have here? Well, we have of course, the Merlin, and he's down with Harry. We have Ebenezer now, and I'm with Harry. But we've got more. We've got Joe Listens to Wind, basically a Native American shaman. And we'd met him out in the garage earlier. He's on Team Harry. He's more on Team of Ebenezer, but so he votes to support Harry, not turn him away. And we've got Martha Liberty. That's another side Ebenezer, the side Harry. She's an African American witch who feels it's best to stick with a fellow wizard and support Harry. Another member is Eleron Lafortier. Now, Lafortier is a French wizard who just wants to wash his hands of this whole situation, so he's ready to kick Harry out and let him deal with the wizards himself. Then we have Ancient Mai. Now, she is a very old Chinese witch, and screw Harry. So we've got 3 against 3. There's 7 on the council. Where's the last one? Well, the last one shows up, Rashid, the spooky and mysterious gatekeeper. No one knows a lot about the gatekeeper. And he's like, He stalls. He doesn't make an instant vote. It's like, well, we could do this. Well, we could do that. There's things to take into account. And while stalling, a messenger shows up from the fairies. And this is where it comes about that they want Harry to do work for them as an emissary. And thus it gets proposed that since we're kind of divided on what to do with Harry, let's have him do this and do a service on behalf of both the Fae and as a representative of the White Council, and it will be his trial. If he manages to accomplish it, then he's earned his place still as a wizard belonging on the White Council. If he fails, or if he missteps in trying to do it and does something wrong, like black magic, clearly he's out. And this will be able to do it. So great. Harry gets to do exactly what he didn't want to do. Mab has actually manipulated the situation, and perhaps the gatekeeper, maybe he stalled on purpose. Maybe he knew it was coming. Maybe he's on Team Harry and he wanted to give a route to Harry to find a way through. Maybe he just didn't want to get involved with the politics. The gatekeeper is a little mysterious. Speaking of, why is he called the gatekeeper? You'll find out eventually. Not yet. So, Harry's stuck with the emissary gig. Great. He gets out of this council, things over, and I didn't mention it. There's security for the council. Yeah, that's the wardens. So Harry had a little reconnection with good old Morgan, Donald Morgan, who wanted to kill him in book 1. Yeah, he's thrilled to see Harry, but he's also thrilled to see Harry because he figures, haha, you're dead, man. Still kind of has it out for him. Brushing off the wardens, getting out of the council, Harry goes to visit Murphy. Remember Murphy? Sergeant Murphy with the special investigations. And Sergeant Murphy? Lieutenant Murphy. Anyways, goes to visit Murphy. He hasn't checked in on her for a while, just like he hasn't checked in with a lot of his friends. He's been so focused on fixing things for Susan. As he gets to Murphy's house, she is not in good shape. She's been having trouble sleeping. She's been self-medicating, booze and drugs. I think Valium's involved. It's not good. Why? Well, Murphy is another one still suffering the effects of what happened in Grave Peril. Remember, she was psychically tortured by Nightmare. She was betrayed by Nightmare appearing as Harry. And ever since, she is just struggling. She's in really bad shape. Plus, she was so much more clearly confronted with the supernatural. With, she always knew there was a little bit of hinky stuff going on out there and she could turn to Harry for help, but how much did she really believe was debatable? Well, it got slammed right into her face during Grave Peril, and that's part of her struggles too. How safe can you really be? What else is out there that might be out to get her? So she's a mess. Harry is kind of broken up seeing how hurt she is. Uh, and so, in trying to speak with her and connect with her and help her, he shares with her, he empathizes with some of his own struggles. And Jim Butcher uses this to give us some backstory on Harry, which is fantastic. Stuff we hadn't learned before, we'd only had hinted at. What we get here is that Harry was an orphan. Okay, his parents had died, and he was taken in by a man named Justin. And Justin also took in another orphan around the same time named Elaine. And the two of them were about the same age, and they basically grew up together into, their preteens and then teenagers. And, well, teenagers, boy, girl, not actually related. One thing leads to another, and this girl, Elaine, becomes his first true love. So Harry and Elaine, they had some fun together. They also were students together because Justin was teaching them up in the ways of wizardry. And then it all went bad. Justin, it turns out, was a black wizard, and he tries to turn Harry to the dark side. Okay, that was more Yoda than Emperor. Anyways, tries to turn him black. And Elaine helps Justin. So Harry ran away. And Justin sent a demon after him. Harry killed the demon, beat the demon, overcame the demon, and then he went back to try to save Elaine. So Elaine he didn't know she was helping Justin initially. So he goes back to help Elaine, and that's when Elaine turns on him. She uses a spell to try to bind him, trap him, so Justin can then do what he's going to do to Harry. And Harry stops Elaine's spell and overcomes Justin basically burns him up. This is the incident that took place that got him in trouble with the White Council, because all they could see for proof was Harry killed Justin. And they had to take his word on what happened because there were no witnesses left. Justin's dead, and Elaine's dead. Self-defense, Harry says. Well, and again, Ebenezer stepped in back at that time. Now, a key point for us to recognize here is we're getting the Dresden Files through Harry Dresden's point of view. That also means we're getting only what he knows. The unreliable narrator is a tool Jim Butcher is using here. What Harry perceives, that's how we perceive it. What Harry discovers, that's what we discover. It's a great storytelling device, and so I want to highlight it here, because this is what Harry believes happened, and very soon after this, we're going to learn, oh yeah, you know nothing, Harry Dresden. There's much more to this. And those kinds of revelations continue through the Dresden Files. It's part of what makes the books good fun to read. Okay, past the empathizing, Harry does finally get to the purpose of visiting Murphy. He was like, I want a little bit of help. Looking into Ronald Rule's death. Can you help me out a little? And she's rather non-committal. She'll maybe see what she can do. But again, she's not doing well. Harry leaves not expecting much help from Murphy. And wishing he could do more for her, but really he doesn't know what he can do. He goes back to his apartment then and finds Elaine. Yes, that Elaine. His high school crush, his partner in crime, learning with Justin, and the Elaine he killed when he killed Justin. Well, apparently not. Somehow she's not dead. But wait a second. She tried to help Justin to get Harry, so she's the bad guy. Well, maybe not, is what Elaine wants to say. And Elaine explains, before Harry can do anything too bad, she's been hiding with the Summer Fae. She's been under the protection of the Summer Lady, Aurora, ever since what happened with Justin. because she did manage to get away. She evaded the fire spell, but she knew that if it came out what had happened there, that she'd be accused of black magic because she helped Justin. And she would be executed probably by the White Council. That's an executable offense. And so she was scared and she went into hiding, and the summer court helped her. She specifically said, "It wasn't my fault. Yes, I helped Justin, but I was a thrall. He had enthralled me," which is a version of, from Wheel of Time, compulsion. He made her do it. He'd messed with her brain. Again, black magic. And this one I really want you to remember. You do not mess with someone's brain. That is a line that is forbidden. You do not cross it. If you psychically mess with someone, the White Council will send their wardens and kill you. So that's what she was afraid of. That's why she's been in hiding all this time. Why is she here now? Well, again, Aurora was hiding her. Aurora and the Summer Court now have made her their emissary to look into what happened to the Summer Night. So she does have somewhat the protection of being an official capacity for the Summer Court, just like Harry is the emissary for the Winter Court. So they're kind of on opposite sides here, but they also were in love with each other. They have feelings. It's a complicated mess. Before Harry can really work through any of this much at all, someone's pounding on his door. Great. Morgan, the warden who hates his guts, is there. Now, why is Morgan here? Basically to give Harry crap. To tell him how much he doesn't like him, how much he doesn't trust him, how he's sure he's going to screw it up, and how he's just waiting to finally be able to take Harry down. That's all he's really here for. But if he sees Elaine here, he'll know who Elaine is, because he was all over that case back when Justin was killed. He'll put 2 and 2 together, and he will come up with 4 so bad that you are a dead man. There's no way Morgan's going to listen to an explanation from Harry or Elaine. So quick, hide. And they literally, they hide her in his bedroom. Morgan comes in. Morgan almost goes into the bedroom to find Elaine, but instead, Mr. the cat comes out, saving the day. And Harry kind of gives Morgan crap for being afraid of a cat, and fine, whatever, and off he goes. Gotta love Mister. But man, Morgan is going to be a pain in the beep. Okay, next, we're still at Harry's place. We get a little bit of Bob time. You gotta give me some Bob time. Who doesn't love Bob? The skull with a mouth. More the skull with a brain. A little spirit of intellect. So, in this book, Bob, who is a compendium of knowledge, is used by Harry to kind of work through the details of this case he's now on, where he's got to try to find out who is responsible, who's the one that killed the Summer Night. And talking it through with Bob, basically, we get to learn very few people would have been capable of this. This is a massive act of power to take out the Summer Night. Summer Night is practically invincible. Who would be capable of it? Well, this is where we learn there are 3 queens of each court, because Bob points out all of them could do it. They're all fully capable. Also, a knight. So the Winter Knight, who's still alive, he could have done it. But really, that's it. Nobody else has the ability, the muscle to take out Ronald Rule the way he was killed. Just, it's not possible. So this helps. We've narrowed it down. There's only 7 possible suspects. And Queen Mab hired him, and he's sure she didn't do it. Pretty sure. So that leaves just 6. Okay. Well, he's got to try to whittle this down some more. So to get to the crux of things here in this book, Harry does some investigating. He comes upon a group of changelings who were friends of Rule, the Summer Night. Changelings are half human, half fae beings that eventually I mean, they look human when they're children, but as they hit adolescence, they start to manifest the Fae side of their genetics. And we learn that they will have to then at some point make a decision to go fully human or fully Fae. This reminded me of the Silmarillion, J.R.R. Tolkien, when we have the two half elven brothers, Elrond and Elros. And Elros chooses to be fully human, Elrond becomes an elf. Okay, you make a choice. You can't just stay half. So that time is approaching for this group, and they had been friends with Rule. They are more aligned with the Summer Court then. Now, before I talk more about these guys, though, you gotta wonder how they come to be. I mean, this means a full Fae gets it on with a full human at some point, and they make a baby. I mean, sure, some of the Fae are gorgeous and magical, but one of these changelings is half troll. I mean, really? Someone's hankering for a troll? I guess there's no accounting for taste. Now, while Harry is initially distrusted by these changelings, they do come around to actually asking him for help. Because one of the changelings that was part of their group that hung out with Rule, Lily, is missing. And she's been missing ever since Rule was killed. They're worried what might have happened to her, and they have not been able to find her at all. No one seems to know anything. Okay, damsel in distress. Harry's always a sucker for that. So he's partly going to try to help them too while he's going upon their business. Investigating more into this, he goes to the site of the murder. And as he's investigating, he comes upon a big dude who's also poking around doing stuff and kind of gets into it with this guy. Turns out he's not just a big dude. The guy's name is Grum. Yeah, he's an ogre. So, okay, another introduction of supernatural creatures. We have ogres. The ogre was under a veil, so magically someone had made him look human, but yeah, he's not human. And he's a lot tougher than a human. He's supernatural. And Harry manages to get away only because ogres also aren't that bright. Whew. He doesn't deal with Grum. He just manages to get away from Grum. So that might come back. Next step, as Harry's trying to investigate, he decides to use his pixie resources. We've met before Toot Toot, the pixie with a hankering for pizza that Harry has kind of made some friends with. So he arranges to get some pizza. He calls for Toot Toot, and at first, things are very tense because Toot Toot can smell winter on him, and he doesn't like that. Again, the winter's the bad guys. Toot Toot's not a bad guy. He's a nice little pixie. When Harry assures him, okay, I'm temporarily working for them, but I'm not them. Okay, Toot Toot loosens up, comes around. Oh, the pizza helps. He can smell it. He knows it's there. What does he ask of Toot Toot? Well, he just wants information. See, it turns out pixies are everywhere, but they're harmless. So no one pays any attention to them. All over the supernatural world, nobody really cares about pixies. So they see things, they hear things, and he finds out through them where he can track down Maeve, the Winter Lady. He has questions for her. You know, he's pretty sure Queen Mab is not the guilty one, but Winter is still the one that would benefit from the Summer Night being dead, so he wants to talk to the Winter Lady. He finds out where they are from Toot Toot and gets an escort. Another one of the pixies, Elodie, gonna lead him down under the city to where he can find them. And that's going along fine. Harry is headed there with a companion, Billy the werewolf, back in the picture. And Elodie leads them on until she gets spooked and runs away because of Grimalkin. Now, Grimalkin is a malk, which is basically a cat. Who doesn't like a cat, right? A malk is a fairy cat, very intelligent, and they align with the Winter Court. Sharp claws, sharp teeth, quite dangerous. Grimalkin They don't have to worry about him really right now because he's on a mission. The Winter Lady knew Harry was coming, sent Grimalkin to meet him and escort him in. But you sense we wouldn't want to get on the bad side of Grimalkin. Not good. We should remember that. Grimalkin then leads Harry and Billy into a meeting with Maeve, the Winter Lady, and her sycophants. She's just surrounded by others who are, oh, Maeve, oh, you're awesome. And they're all nasty kind of creatures. It's not a pleasant experience. Maeve is a sleazy dirtbag. Now, not dirty. Maeve is basically hot. She's a queen, but she's scum. She's just not a nice character at all. And she knows it and she owns it, and ugh. We also get to meet Lloyd Slate here, the Winter Knight, who basically hangs out with Maeve and does what Maeve wants. And he's a thug. It's not a good guy. You get this whole sense these people are not the good guys in any way, shape, or form. However, as Harry has conversations and threats and banter all through here with Maeve, he does come to one particular conclusion. Maeve didn't do it. Remembering that the Fae cannot directly lie, the conversation they have and the things he gets her to say does convince him she did not directly kill the Summer Knight. Now, maybe she had some involvement, maybe in some way she's part of it, but she didn't do it. Okay, so that's another one down. We've got 2 queens out. There's still 6 to go. But 2 of the queens have been removed from consideration. Now he's thinking, all right, next I want to talk to the mothers. Okay, the retired queens. Basically see if they could have had a hand, and if not, can they help? Is there anything they can do? Now, how can he get to them? Well, he can't on his own, but he knows someone who can help. And he summons his fairy godmother, the Liananshi. And she shows up, and sure, she can get him a meeting with the mothers. However, there's something else he needs to know. And she takes him on a little spiritual journey, supernatural trek to see something. A special place kind of up in the sky, a stone table, a place of ritual where something significant can be done a couple times a year. Because we learn here that the Winter Court and the Summer Court are like forces of nature, and they are in balance with each other. But as the seasons switch, so do their strength. During summer, the peak of summer, the Summer Court has a little more power than winter. And then it goes the other direction as we switch to the other time of year. It's just a natural cycle. At that stone table, it would be possible at certain times to conduct a ritual that could throw things off, could throw things out of whack. And that missing summer mantle is the kind of power that the wrong person could engage at the wrong time at that stone table and totally blow everything to crap. Leanne and she just thought he maybe ought to know. And Harry's like, what's going on? And then he's delivered to the mothers. Okay, these mothers are kind of creepy. I mean, first he just meets Mother Winter, and she's really kind of threatening and sketchy and scary, and it looks like things might go really bad. And then Mother Summer comes in and basically says, all right, quit giving the kids such a hard time. And she's the more warm and nice and soft personality. They have a discussion, and Harry kind of walks the fine line of pushing for information and potentially being destroyed because he's so irreverent. But he manages to dance it just right and gets no answers out of them. Instead, they probe and push him so that his thought processes takes what he's learned already and comes to the conclusions that he should have been able to figure out and just hadn't seen yet. So it ends up being successful. I mean, it's a good meeting in the end, but they didn't technically tell him anything. They stayed out of it, which is kind of important. But his meeting with them does put him on the right path. And now we're going to kind of jump forward here. Here's what he has figured out. As crazy as it sounds, the person who saw the summer night killed was Aurora, the summer lady. Basically, the one he worked for. And she colluded with the Winter Knight, Lloyd Slate, to pull this all off. Why? Why would she do this? Well, basically, Aurora has looked at this whole setup between winter and summer and has decided this just has to end. She sees all the harm that is done to the human world because of the eternal battle between the forces of summer and winter, and she just wants to burn it all down. And she has used her wiles on the Winter Knight to draw him in, more or less. I think he's just loves to burn things down, so he's along for the ride. And the Winter Lady, who he technically works for, doesn't even know. So Aurora arranged for what she believes is the greater good to kill the Summer Knight so that she could take that summer mantle, use it to throw off the balance of power on that stone table. To do that, she's going to sacrifice somebody. When the Summer Knight was killed, his mantle went into the nearest Fae nearby, and that was Lily, that changeling who no one has seen since. She got the summer mantle, and Aurora turned her into a statue. Just poof, magically transformed her into stone. And that stone is going to then be changed back and sacrificed on the stone table. That's the plan. When Harry has this figured out, he's like, oh, crap. We got to stop this. So he rushes with help to that place with the stone table again. But Aurora's there. The Winter Knight is there. They're setting up this big event to make this happen. But she's also rallied a bunch of powers of fairy on her side, mostly deluded, not knowing what's really going on. Just, of course, they support the Summer Lady. Harry has support too because Queen Mab is there. Queen Titania also realizes this is not good. This is not what's supposed to happen. So a bunch of the forces of the Fae are showing up to help Harry too. And you end up with this big, massive battle up in the sky, basically, over Chicago in a supernatural realm. People can't really see what's going on up there other than there's like some big storm. And they're just having it out. And Harry is like just this little wizard without a lot of supernatural power like the Fae have, trying to make it through the battlefield to stop Aurora. Thankfully, he gets a lot of help. There are a lot of people fighting for his side as well. Some people really step up and sacrifice for the cause. And in the end, Harry is able to make it to Aurora. Now, she's there. She's about to sacrifice Lily. And Harry plays his wild card, his ace in the hole. I picture him giving a whistle, and Toot Toot shows up with a whole army of pixies. You know, these little fairies nobody pays any attention to. And he has them armed with box cutters. Steel box cutters. Steel made from iron. This is something poisonous to the Fae. They don't like this kind of metal. And these pixies, holding the plastic of them, they attack Aurora. She gets swarmed by a whole horde of these innocent little pixies that couldn't harm a fly. And they all have box cutters. And they take her out. Like, crap! Wow! This was amazing. Yeah, death by X-Acto knife. A death of 1,000 cuts. Now, it almost still all goes wrong because Aurora needs the power of Summer to be sacrificed on the stone table. So as she's dying of all these, she's like flung herself onto the stone table. And Harry is like, no, you don't. And he picks her up, takes her off. She's like, no, don't take me. Takes her off, lays her down on the ground, and she dies on the ground. Her plans fall apart. The balance is saved. So Harry's successful. He stopped Aurora. He saved Lily. She's no longer a statue. He's able to fix that. And, and they stopped Lloyd Slate. Mab has the Winter Knight in custody, and she's going to deal with him. He's like, this will not be good for the Winter Knight, who had sided with Summer to try to mess everything up. What are the results of this story? Well, the White Council gets what they were hoping for. Safe passage through the Never Never to help them in the fight against the Red Court vampires. Harry was successful in fulfilling his role as emissary. That is the reward. He also has paid off one of his favors to Queen Mab. And he's now in better terms again with the White Council. They have acknowledged he has earned his place as a wizard of the White Council. He will not be kicked out. He will not be tossed to the Red Court wolves. He has the protection of being a wizard restored. Also, Queen Mab, perhaps as the second favor, says, I'm going to need a new Winter Knight. You want it, Harry? And he's like, heck no. I've seen what this kind of power does to people. I mean, what a piece of work Lloyd Slate is. I don't want to become that. I am not being your Winter Knight. And again, Mab, just like with the offer for the emissary, she's kind of like, well, we'll see. I can be patient. Might want to pay attention to that and watch. Let's see where this goes. Also, in wrap up, the changeling Lily, who had the summer mantle in her, well, she was also now the closest to Aurora when Aurora died, so the power of the summer lady went into Lily. Lily is now the new summer lady, and she is going to be raised up by Titania, the queen, training to eventually one day be the future regular queen. She taps her fellow changeling and friend Fix to become the new Summer Knight. Because, of course, Ronald Rule's dead, and the mantle has to go to someone, so it goes to Fix. And the two of them now are officially part of the Summer Court. There are a ton of small events that happen throughout this book, and throughout every Dresden Files book that's really good and fun, and I'm not going to talk about all of them when I go through these book reviews. But there is one particular episode I do need to jump back to and just talk about, because it's hilarious, it's momentous, and it's one of my favorite parts of the book. I mean, I've wrapped up where this book goes already. Okay, you've got the conclusion now, but I'm jumping back because we got to talk about the Chloro Fiend. If you read this, you know what I mean. Murphy has been doing some research for Harry, agrees to meet with him, and let's pick a neutral location, because, again, she's kind of messed up and not sure she wants to get too involved with things. They decide to meet at a Walmart. Murphy picked the place. So they're standing in the middle of a Walmart, and they're talking shop. She's talking about some of the things she learned about with looking into the death of Ronald Rule, and Harry's sharing a little about what he's been up to and investigating, when suddenly the lights go out and fog starts creeping into the Walmart. And Harry recognizes that as mind fog. And if that hits them, their minds will go blank. They won't know who they are or what they're doing, and they'll be easy pickings for what Harry assumes this is another assassination attempt. They're in trouble. They got to get out of this. He manages to use his magic in a way that allows them to get through the fog and protected and safe, only to run back into the ghoul again. The ghoul from the first opening scene. The ghoul turns out to be someone called the Tigress. She's a ghoul assassin. She's good at her job. And this is not good. Now Murphy, she's she's like, ah, as realizes this is not a human. This is a creature. It's supernatural. And again, she's still shell shocked from the events of Grave Peril, and she's almost paralyzed with fear. And then, yes, she shakes it off, pulls out her gun, and pumps the ghoul full of lead. Just bam, 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 bam. She has taken the ghoul out. Now the ghoul isn't just falling dead of a gunshot, but hit and hit and hit and getting knocked all the way back. And she drains the gun dry. The ghoul's like, mercy, please. And she's like, pops the one clip out, pops another in. Bam, bam, we're going at it some more. Murphy goes all off. Wow. It was awesome. And she pretty much is going to take the ghoul out for good when that stupid Grum shows up again, the ogre. Off from the side, kind of knocks Murphy out of the way. Harry gets involved trying to stop the ogre. They end up separated. Harry ends up out in the garden center of the Walmart, the chained in garden center that's kind of on the outside of one of these buildings. And he's been using his magic to fight off Grum, and then suddenly some of the gardeny stuff just starts magically coming together and turns into this creature. I kind of picture like an Ent from the Lord of the Rings. And a mindless magical creature now that's out for Harry. He's like, a plant monster? Are you kidding me? And he's like, I can't call it a plant monster. He's got this running dialogue in his head in the midst of fighting for his life. What can I call it? And he comes up with, on the fly, Chlorofiend. I thought it was awesome. It was one of those laugh out loud moments when I was reading this book. But the best part of this whole thing, then, is Murphy going off badass. Because Harry is just trying to survive, barely using enough magic to squeak through situations, and it's Murphy who comes through. She douses Grum with lighter fluid and uses a simple camper sterno to light him on fire. So Grum's taken out as a human torch, ogre torch. And then she comes after the Chlorofiend with a chainsaw and literally chops him up to little itty bits until he finally stops moving. Murphy is back, man. That was a great moment. I hope you enjoyed that scene as much as I did. All right, let me wrap this up with a couple final thoughts about Summer Night. First, the book illustrates a trend I see in the Dresden Files, where Harry gets caught up in circumstances he totally wanted to avoid, knew he should avoid, and then could not avoid. It's like seeing a train wreck coming, but having zero ability to throw the brakes. Poor Harry. Get used to it. The poor guy is going to have situation after situation that he knows is a bad idea, and there's nothing he can do about it. We also see real hints of bigger forces and a greater game in the background going on around Harry, in which he's just a piece, maybe even just a pawn. Harry might be the star of the show because it's called the friggin' Dresden Files. But there's a far bigger story around here, the reality of the situations in which Harry is part. And we're only getting to see a piece. Again, this is all through Harry's point of view. So the question you should be asking yourself here is, will Harry's role in all of this begin to grow more significant? Or will he stay just this little pawn, this little piece? And will we learn more of this bigger picture over time? Or are we always going to just get the Harry show? That's stuff to wonder as you move into the next book of the series, Death Masks, Book 5, which we will review sometime soon. I've got it planned somewhere, but I don't have it in front of me right now. All right, that's where I'm going to wrap this up for now. Thank you again for being with us. Let me hit my outro as I remind you of a few of the little goodies here. Join us on Discord. Want to see you there. If you haven't read the Dresden Files yet, please do. Get caught up and join us for our next episode. And you can join us live if you become a patron. Find Fantasy for the Ages on Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, you too can have all this fun with us. Thank you, those of you who were with us in Discord today. It's been great to interact with you, and I'm glad you are also fans of the Dresden Files. Great books, good fun. I look forward to the next one. Until then, talk to you next time.